Here's the twist viewers keep missing. Kat may be a brat, but Leslie is the one actually willing to cause bodily harm to get her way. The great cosmic reminder that this is all televised fiction seems necessary, considering the way some members of the viewing public react as though the characters might leap out of the screen and file restraining orders. The narrative revolves around Kat and Eva, both perfectly likable, contrary to the panic that erupts whenever someone dares to analyze them unevenly. Meanwhile, Leslie sits atop a pile of wealth large enough to smother most grievances, yet remains chronically dissatisfied. Her lifelong fixation on the Duprees, Anita in particular, persists with the intensity of an unpaid debt collector. And then there is Peaches, mysteriously equipped with Barbara's hairbrush, as if auditioning for a twist in which she turns out to be Barbara. Subtlety has never been this universe's strong suit. The storyline took a nosedive the moment Eva's parentage came to light. Ted, now revealed as her father, has perfected the art of disappointment. His relentless accommodation of Eva and his baffling alliance with Leslie suggest he is on an extended sabbatical from sound judgment. The likelihood of reconciliation with Nicole is roughly equivalent to spontaneous combustion, technically possible, but not worth holding one's breath. Kat, to her credit, recognized Eva's scheming nature before anyone else, and now stands completely alone for her trouble. Speculation about romantic entanglements is practically a sport. Andre seems destined to pursue Ashley, who radiates all the spontaneity of a filing cabinet. Danny and Bill appear poised to rediscover each other, a development owed less to compatibility and more to the writer's fondness for nostalgia. Hayley, never one to let dignity impede ambition, seems prepared to claw her way into Isaiah's orbit, setting the stage for yet another skirmish with Eva. Joey and Vanessa appear equally likely to exchange vows or prison uniforms. Ted and Shanice show potential to become an intimidating alliance, while Nicole risks wandering straight into Carlton's manipulative maze. Vernon, contrary to certain salacious suspicions, is not engaged in an affair. He is simply taking clandestine singing lessons to surprise Anita, an act of affection that will inevitably be misinterpreted once discovered. Leslie, ever the opportunist, is poised to ensnare the earnest cop who may well relieve her of both her illusions and her wallet. The idea of one of Hayley's former marks resurfacing during her marriage to Bill is more of a public service announcement than a plot twist. And while Bill may soon wallow in regret over his treatment of Danny, regret is not the same as growth, nor is it an invitation for her to resume the role of emotional doormat. As for backstory, there is no shortage of demand. Bill's downfall at Hayley's hands would be a particularly enlightening study in gullibility. Andre's parents deserve far more exploration, as do Leslie and Peaches, whose shared history appears about as cohesive as a jigsaw puzzle missing the lid image. Leslie inspires a peculiar brand of admiration from those who seem untroubled by her rather flexible relationship with sanity. She is entertaining, certainly, but so is a tornado if one happens to be observing from a safe distance. Her schemes fuel much of the drama, and Kat's constant role as everyone's preferred punching bag completes the show's ecosystem of chaos. Kat may be a brat, but Leslie is a brat with a demonstrated willingness to cause actual harm. An important distinction. Still, credit is due to the wardrobe department for transforming Kat into a walking catalog of impeccable style. Some insist Leslie's motives are noble in their own eccentric way, as though passion compensates for a persistent shortage of rational thought. Let her have Ted, they say, because the moment the chase ends, the shine will fade and she will wander off in search of a fresh fixation. Meanwhile, alarm over Danny and Andre's romantic quietude misses the point entirely. In this genre, calm is merely the prologue to catastrophe, typically a secret marriage, a hidden lover, or a surprise betrayal. The storm is coming. It always is. The Thanksgiving commotion, when revisited with a clear head, reveals very little worth defending. Eva expressed irritation over Kat's theatrics, and Leslie recommended focusing on Martin to avoid another explosive holiday. Hardly the psychological warfare some insist upon, yet the principle stands. No one with unresolved hostility towards someone's child has any business offering commentary on that child, benign or otherwise. Eva's best option remains the simplest. Either attend the event or do not. But refrain from performing outrage over Kat's every breath. The gates reopen soon, and when they do, the audience will, once again, prepare to act as though televised fiction is a personal responsibility. Here's what nobody wants to admit about Ted's devoted father act. It collapses the second Leslie and Eva open their mouths. Season 1 still has 21 episodes left, which is just enough time for the universe to finally deliver some overdue revelations, preferably the kind that leaves certain characters staring blankly into the middle distance, wondering how everything went wrong. Take Hayley, self-appointed genius of the century. For someone so convinced of her own intellectual brilliance, she has a remarkable talent for antagonizing the one person who could destroy her without breaking a sweat. Randy knows every skeleton in her closet, including the ones she hasn't finished assembling. Yet she insists on treating him like hired help. All it would take is a single plea deal and Randy would be belting out confessions with the enthusiasm of a pop diva hitting a high note. Bill would probably volunteer as his attorney, thrilled to represent anyone willing to sing Hayley's entire criminal discography. Meanwhile, the season's favorite red herring refuses to behave. Leslie, long presumed guilty of running Laura off the road, is, shockingly, not the culprit. That revelation will no doubt delight the crowd waiting for her downfall, though Leslie tends to specialize less in direct violence and more in strategic manipulation. Exhibit A. Marcel, immediately recognized as both useful and dangerous. She knows exactly how to leverage men like him, preferably to remove inconvenient objects and people with minimal personal effort. Joey, ever consistent in being Joey, has somehow stumbled into a potential emotional storyline involving Vanessa. Whether this is genuine or just another detour in his perpetual chaos remains unclear. But ambiguity is half the entertainment. Then there's Ted, who continues his campaign for most spectacularly spineless man at the Thanksgiving table. Watching his daughter get disrespected by his child's mother and the entire accompanying circus, he opted for stoic silence, a bold strategy for someone allegedly invested in fatherhood. The same man who urges Kat to get past her feelings about Eva suddenly found himself unable to muster a single sentence in defense of the daughter he actually raised. That silence reverberated louder than any declaration he's ever made. This pattern is nothing new. Ted has never corrected Leslie, never established boundaries, and never followed through on repairing anything with Nicole. Sending flowers does not qualify as effort. It barely qualifies as acknowledgement. Instead, he drifts closer and closer to Leslie and Eva, an arrangement that pleases everyone except the people he supposedly loves. Martin, predictably, remains a generational echo of weakness, continuing the proud Richardson tradition of folding under pressure from Eva's orbit. Should the day ever come when the truth emerges that Eva might not be Ted's daughter or Martin's half-sister, the expression on both of their faces will be worth the wait. Kat's reaction, however, will be the only predictable one: unbothered. After all, why embrace a father and brother who eagerly turned their backs simply because she refused to play the family fool? Of course, moral outrage is highly selective in this universe. Some claim that befriending a spoiled brat is worse than aligning with someone who hides evidence, sabotages a marriage at its anniversary celebration, and sleeps with her sister's partner. Others insist Eva is hardly evil, especially compared to family members who once hid Martin's involvement in a man's death. The victim's family, apparently, didn't warrant consideration, but lofty principles tend to vanish the moment an inconvenient truth threatens the wrong person. Still, hypocrisy remains the show's most reliable character. Kat is condemned for targeting her father during a feud, yet those same critics ignore the far more deliberate betrayals executed by the adults around her. Game recognizes game, and Leslie recognized Marcel immediately. Meanwhile, Ted recognizes absolutely nothing, not loyalty, not manipulation, not the widening distance between himself and the daughter he raised. Thanksgiving with the Richardsons made that painfully obvious. In private, Ted speaks gently to Kat and even defends Eva. But in public, he surrendered the entire battlefield. His refusal to confront Leslie and Eva's attacks on his daughter said everything his words never will. The applause for his silence is well-deserved. It takes true dedication to abandon integrity that thoroughly. As Ted fades further into the gravitational pull of Leslie and Eva, Kat is left watching a once dependable father become a man defined by hesitation and divided loyalties. A double-minded man may be unstable, but this one is also unmistakably choosing where and with whom he prefers to stand. Here's what nobody wants to admit about Beyond the Gates. The so-called bad guys are the only ones keeping the show alive. The latest Beyond the Gates chatter arrives with all the subtlety of a marching band, demanding two things at once: a quick list of sets, just two, no grocery inventory, and an expedited arrest for Hayley, the resident poison enthusiast. Monday's return episode has clearly awakened the masses, primed for confessions, conspiracies, and the inevitable moral decay that keeps a soap opera thriving. Amid the chaos, one bright constant remains: Martin and Smitty. The duo continues to serve as the show's emotional ballast, welcoming June at Thanksgiving with the warmth of a family that hasn't yet been dragged through with a writer's angst generator. Alongside Vernon and Anita, they remain the show's reliable foundation, an increasingly rare commodity. Of course, stability is merely a decorative flourish in this universe. Soap operas survive through murky motives and questionable ethics. Expecting peaches and cream is a recipe for disappointment. Yet one question persists. If Hayley has made a hobby out of hustling men for their savings, how exactly has she avoided even the most cursory police inquiry? The legal system in this town seems to run on plot convenience. Meanwhile, Kat remains in the dark about what happened to Grandpa Vernon and Brother Martin 2 years ago. Mysteries the reruns keep waving like neon signs. And then there's Ted, allegedly intelligent, now possibly tumbling into Leslie's carefully padded web. Either he's losing IQ points by the minute, or her schemes are finally paying dividends. Shanice, for her part, continues to sit on the memory of witnessing Dana, also known as Leslie, waltzing into Laura's room disguised as a nurse. Why she hasn't said anything remains one of the show's great modern mysteries. Perhaps selective amnesia is contagious on this set. Despite perennial calls for Leslie's arrest, the writers have made her long-term value unmistakably clear. Her chaos is not a bug but a feature. She is the accelerant that transforms potentially mild storylines into watchable firestorms. Eliminating her would be like pulling the plug mid-season. The writers are certainly not that careless. There are also more artistic requests, ranging from charming to wildly ambitious. One plea encourages granting Mr. Dupree a musical moment, a rendition of Never Can Say Goodbye, ideally placed within an episode. Another proposes expanding the cast with 2 additional icons: Jason Weaver, whose chemistry with Keith Robinson has historical precedent, and Tevin Campbell, whose presence could invigorate the show's music scene. A club singer at Uptown would hardly be a stretch for a series already leaning into its Black Excellence showcase. Then comes the ongoing debate over the Articulettes reunion. The discomfort surrounding Leslie and Eva's presence is understandable, but context matters. Nicole noted Ted wasn't even present, while Kat and Chelsea arrived fully prepared for conflict. Leslie and Eva share a maternal connection to the group, and Eva's reflection at the diner, complete with childhood nostalgia, suggests she didn't come hunting for drama. But once poked, even the calmest character eventually strikes back. After all, when someone who has tormented a family repeatedly shows up, expecting tranquility is an act of optimism bordering on delusion. Defensive behavior becomes less a choice and more a reflex. Finally, a call goes out to abandon the ever-popular crab syndrome. Instead of dragging the show down with endless nitpicking, viewers are encouraged to lift it up, preferably with gratitude, positivity, and a moratorium on relentless complaint campaigns. Happy Thanksgiving to all, and may the tone policing commence. And in case the writers needed one more romantic suggestion, now that Ashley and Derek have split and the Ted-Shanice ambiguity is growing tiresome, Perhaps Derek and June deserve a test run. At this point, why not? The gates are wide open. Here's what people refuse to admit about the so-called scheduling scandal on Beyond the Gates. The seasonal hand-wringing over Beyond the Gates has reached its predictable crescendo, largely fueled by a stunning refusal to grasp how television production works. Holiday reruns are not a sign of apocalypse. They're a tradition as old as soaps themselves. Beyond the Gates, now completing its first season, received a 200-episode order, perfectly normal for a debut year, and therefore cannot magically match the 238-episode output of long-running shows. The 200th episode, landing near Christmas or New Year, will neatly wrap the season before the show transitions into a standard schedule next year. This has been explained repeatedly, yet the chorus of confusion persists with admirable stamina. Meanwhile, interpersonal chaos remains the show's most reliable engine. Ted's invitation to Martin's has inexplicably become a philosophical debate. Some viewers insist Leslie invited herself, a reading that requires remarkable imaginative courage. On screen, Ted addressed both women, eyes included, with the kind of vague politeness that leaves everyone slightly misled. If exclusivity were his goal, he would have committed to the singular, Eva, and maintained eye contact like a man with a plan. Instead, he delivered a group-friendly social gesture that Leslie declined, not invented. Ted's tendency toward questionable choices is well documented, but this particular misunderstanding stems less from malice and more from his signature ambiguity. The show also takes an unexpectedly mature approach to the emotional fallout of divorce. The insistence that Kat should just move on overlooks a universal truth. Parents often rush their children through grief, even adult children, as if the dissolution of a family were a scheduling inconvenience. The lingering emotional debris, resentment, jealousy, the shifting tectonics of step and half-sibling dynamics, is exactly the kind of terrain soaps have always excelled at exploring. The rarely acknowledged intensity of a daughter's attachment to her father is finally getting its narrative due, and the result is one of the show's more thoughtful arcs. Other concerns take a more whimsical shape. One viewer laments the disappearance of a wildly popular post praising the show's breadth of couple representation, including an impassioned objection to reuniting Ashley and Andre, and wonders where the digital evidence of its success vanished to. Another, confidently, predicts Madison will diagnose Bill's poisoning based solely on dermatological clues, apparently trusting that a routine checkup will yield the plot twist of the year. There is also speculative genealogy regarding Tyrell and Samantha's father, tossed out with the mischievous spirit of a fan who knows exactly how many paternity mysteries soaps can juggle at once. Then there's the matter of Leslie's performance style, attributed to her background in Shakespeare and stage productions. The observation may be accurate, but the plea for her storyline to conclude suggests that theatrical diction alone cannot save a character overstaying her narrative welcome. For anyone bewildered by these developments, a reminder: this is a soap opera. The genre that invented baby-to-college time warps, selective memory, corporate product placement, lovable villains, and holiday reruns long before anyone had the nerve to complain about them. Meals will be ruined, drama will overflow, and characters will occasionally leap developmental stages in a single week. It's tradition. It's formula. It's the point. And for those who have forgotten, or never knew, how soaps function, welcome to the genre. It will not slow down for you. Never trust a wedding in a soap. It's basically an eviction notice for drama. The rerun of the Articulette concerts offered an unexpected perk: the chance to spot every overlooked hint the first viewing missed. Leslie, for instance, practically waved a neon sign about her lineage. Her mother owns the entire Articulette catalog, and Leslie ran those songs into the ground, a gentle nudge that Barbara was not merely a performer in her life, but the missing fourth piece and, of course, the birth mother in question. Barbara herself seemed determined to keep the family tree safely pruned, briskly instructing Peaches not to discuss her with Dana, Leslie, Tomas, or anyone else with ears. Meanwhile, Carlton's choice to sit beside Leslie at the concert did little to dispel the sense that everyone knows something except the people who should. The larger question is, how long a show can keep this kind of storyline simmering before the audience stages an uprising? In the world of soap operas, the answer is indefinitely. A plot may resolve in 6 weeks, 6 months, or when the sun burns out, depending on how many dramatic crumbs the writers feel like scattering. Daily programming encourages glacial pacing. A single on-screen day can stretch across an entire week of episodes, with characters dutifully wearing the same outfit to prove time has technically not passed. Major arcs, love triangles, hidden parentage, and assorted betrayals can unfurl over seasons, with ripple effects continuing long after the central twist is technically resolved. And with multiple plot lines rotating at once, a slow story can appear to drag simply because the camera keeps wandering elsewhere. Given that structure, it's easy to imagine the show marching straight toward a classic soap opera alter-interception. Vanessa glides down the aisle toward Joey, only for Doug to burst in at the last possible moment, amnesia conveniently cured, ready to reveal every underhanded deed Joey has tucked under the rug. It is a trope, yes, but a deeply beloved one, and hardly beneath a universe already thriving on secrets stacked 3 layers deep. And finally, regardless of any collective effort to assign moral failings to Dr. Carlton, one festive made-for-TV Christmas movie seems to have rendered him permanently immune to criticism. Some reputations, apparently, are snow globe indestructible. Here's why those quirky cascade moments in your favorite show aren't nearly as harmless as they look. The cultural ecosystem surrounding Beyond the Gates has become a fascinating collision of nostalgia, product placement, and accidental comedy. One moment, viewers are spotting a familiar face from a Carnival Cruise commercial. The next, they're debating whether Carlton's latest holiday film cameo signals the start of a lifetime cinematic universe. The show seems determined to resurrect everything from retrocasting to retro soap opera aesthetics, a sort of televised rummage sale where sentimentality and corporate sponsorship coexist without shame. Fans are increasingly proposing narrative detours as if pitching directly to the writer's room. A backstory for Hayley and Bill? Certainly. A Winterfest forecast involving Anita, Leslie, and Vernon? Absolutely. The appetite for expanded lore is endless, and yet nothing sparks more enthusiasm than the show's unabashed embrace of product placement, particularly the now famous Cascade dishwasher tablets cameo, delivered with the confidence of a character revealing state secrets. Danny informing Andre that rinsing dishes is a myth was treated as both a plot point and an educational broadcast, as though Beyond the Gates had momentarily transformed into a domestic science PSA. The nostalgia doesn't stop there. Some viewers long for a full commitment to classic melodrama, black and white cinematography, organ stings, and a dream sequence straight out of a 1960s soap. The comparison to the stylized episodes of WandaVision is inevitable, and oddly fitting. The show already dances on the edge of self-parody. Leaning all the way in would hardly be a shock. Of course, none of this theatrical whimsy exists in a vacuum. The show is sponsored by Procter & Gamble, whose products appear with the regularity of supporting characters: Tide, Febreze, Cascade, and likely a historical cameo from CoverGirl. It is a corporate omnipresence so thorough it could qualify for its own storyline. Some viewers applaud the writer's creativity in making these integrations playful rather than tedious. Others view the arrangement with suspicion, noting that scenes risking full infomercial status become even more disquieting when the fan chatter evolves into glowing product endorsements. Still, the product placement occasionally taps into something relatable. Generations raised in homes where dishwashers functioned exclusively as storage units found themselves unexpectedly seen. For some, these glimmers of recognition balance out the blunt commercialism. The show has even folded in health commentary, offering micro PSAs about issues like elevated heart disease risk in African American communities. It's an eclectic mix, advertising softened by cultural nods and earnest public service messaging. Yet even the most charitable viewers admit there is a fine line between camp and corporate colonization. When fans begin echoing marketing language in their discussions, The atmosphere skews uncomfortably close to brand loyalist recruitment. And in an era saturated with AI, bots, and companies inserting ads into every available corner of daily life, the spectacle of audiences becoming unwitting pitch representatives feels especially dystopian. Product placement may be as old as television itself, but Beyond the Gate has weaponized it with theatrical bravado. Whether it's clever satire, harmless fun, or the future of serialized advertising is up for debate.